My sister is a social worker who used her job to legally steal my apartment. She's done this to 4 other people. I'm James, 26M, and I need to share what happened to me as a warning to others. My sister Rebecca, 28F, a social worker for the city, systematically used her professional position to take control of my apartment through false reports and legal manipulation. This is my story. Initial post, October 2024, confused about sudden city inspections. 3 weeks ago, my normal life was turned upside down. I was working from home as a freelance graphic designer when I received an official notice from the city claiming they'd received multiple reports about unsafe living conditions in my apartment. I've lived in this 1-bedroom rental for 3 years without a single complaint, so this came as a complete shock. The notice gave me 48 hours to allow an inspection or face legal action. Confused but wanting to cooperate, I agreed. What happened next still bewilders me. The inspector arrived with a clipboard and camera, photographing everything like a crime scene. My bookshelf was documented as excessive paper materials creating fire hazard. My dual monitor setup for work was labeled a potential electrical fire risk. Even my kitchen, where I had maybe 4 days' worth of dishes in the sink, was photographed as evidence of deteriorating sanitary conditions. He wrote me up for 7 violations, including excessive personal belongings creating navigation hazards, potential hoarding behaviors requiring intervention, and failure to maintain minimum habitability standards. I tried explaining that I work from home, that the equipment and books were necessary for my job, but he just kept taking photos and making notes. That evening, something strange happened. My sister Rebecca called me, which was unusual because we barely speak outside of obligatory holiday greetings. She works as a social worker for the city's Adult Protective Services Department. She seemed overly concerned about my situation, asking detailed questions about the inspection. She offered to help me get things sorted, and mentioned she could talk to people at her office about the inspection. Her tone was odd, professionally sympathetic but somehow eager. She kept using phrases like, "These situations can escalate quickly," and "You don't want this on your record." When I thanked her but said I'd handle it myself, she became insistent, almost aggressive. "James, you don't understand how serious this is. I've seen people lose their homes over less. Let me help you." 2 days later, I received another notice, this time from Adult Protective Services. They'd received a report claiming I might be unable to maintain safe living conditions due to mental health concerns. The report alleged I was showing signs of compulsive hoarding disorder and self-neglect behaviors consistent with depression or executive dysfunction. I looked around my apartment in disbelief. Yes, I have a lot of books. I'm a designer. I need reference materials. Yes, I have work equipment scattered around. I run a business from home. Yes, I sometimes let laundry pile up for a week when I'm on deadline. But hoarding? Mental health concerns? This felt like I'd entered some bureaucratic nightmare. My landlord, Mr. Peterson, called the next day. He'd been my landlord for 3 years with 0 issues, but now he sounded worried. "James, the city contacted me about the ongoing situation at your unit. They're threatening to fine me $500 per day if violations aren't addressed. I don't want to evict you, but I can't afford these fines. You need to fix this fast." Rebecca called again that morning, her voice dripping with concern. "James, I've been thinking about your situation all night. In cases like these, sometimes a family member can act as a temporary guardian to help manage things. I've seen it work really well with my clients. The city provides funds for remediation, and the family member oversees the process. It's often the best way to avoid eviction or more serious consequences." Something about her eagerness set off alarm bells in my head. Why was she so invested in this? We hadn't had a real conversation in years, and now she was calling daily about my situation? "Rebecca, I appreciate your concern, but I've got this handled. It's just a misunderstanding." "James, you're not listening. I'm a professional. I know how these cases go. You're showing classic signs of denial. That's part of the problem." "What problem? My apartment is fine." That's exactly what someone with hoarding disorder would say. "Look, I'm just trying to help." When they condemn your apartment and you're homeless, remember I offered. The next few days were a blur of research and panic. I learned that in my state, if someone is deemed unable to maintain safe housing due to mental health issues, a court can appoint a temporary guardian. This guardian gets significant control. They can enter the property, make decisions about belongings, and manage any remediation funds provided by the city. I had a follow-up inspection in 5 days. The notice warned that if I didn't show significant improvement, they'd escalate to enforcement action, including possible condemnation of the unit and fines up to $500 per day per violation. With 7 violations, I was looking at $3,500 per day. Update 1, November 2024. The horrible truth. After my first post, several Reddit users suggested I file a Freedom of Information Act request for the complaints against me. It took a week, but the documents revealed everything. While the complainant's name was redacted, the reports included case numbers and internal notes that made the truth obvious. One note mentioned the complainant was a mandated reporter in professional capacity who had direct knowledge of family situation. Another used the phrase, client exhibits pattern consistent with early-stage hoarding disorder as outlined in DSM-5 Criteria 300.3. I recognized that clinical language. Rebecca had used the exact same phrase in a text message last year when I couldn't help her move because of a work deadline. I confronted her at her apartment. I should have recorded it, but I was too shocked to think straight. Rebecca, I know it was you. You filed those reports. She didn't even try to deny it. James, I'm trying to help you. You're living in denial about your problems, and as a professional, I couldn't just stand by. What problems? Because I have books. Because I work from home. She pulled out her phone and showed me photos of my apartment that she'd taken during the few times she'd visited. Look at this objectively, James. The clutter, the isolation, the defensive behavior when anyone tries to help. These are classic signs. You took photos of my home to use against me? I documented concerning conditions, yes. That's what a responsible family member does. Do you know how expensive these interventions usually are? But if a family member steps in as a temporary guardian, the city provides support funds. I could help you get your life together and you'd get financial assistance. You want to be my guardian? Control my home. Temporarily. Just until we get things sorted. Look, I've done this for clients before. This woman, her brother helped her completely transform her life. He managed the cleanup, used the city funds to hire organizers, and now she's thriving. I realized then that this wasn't misguided concern, this was calculated. Get out. Get out and never contact me again. She gathered her things slowly, calmly. When they condemn your apartment and you're facing homelessness, remember I tried to help. The offer stands. I can make this all go away if you just cooperate. That night, I researched everything about temporary guardianship. In my state, it can be granted if someone is deemed incapacitated regarding their living situation. The guardian gets near total control for up to a year, renewable if the person hasn't shown improvement. They can enter the property at will, dispose of belongings deemed hazardous, and control all remediation funds. I hired a lawyer, Robert Hoffman, who specialized in housing law. He was blunt. Fighting city agencies is expensive and difficult, especially when the reports come from a social worker who knows exactly what language to use. She's built a paper trail using all the right terminology. We can fight it, but it'll cost thousands with no guarantee of success. The second inspection was in 3 days. Rebecca had filed additional reports since our confrontation, according to an email from the inspector. They were now bringing a mental health evaluator because of escalating concerns from family member regarding aggressive behavior when confronted about living conditions. Update 2, November 2024, the inspection disaster. The second inspection was worse than I imagined. They arrived with an entire team, the original inspector, his supervisor, a mental health evaluator, and someone from Adult Protective Services. My lawyer was present, which seemed to irritate them. They spent 3 hours in my one-bedroom apartment, documenting everything with the thoroughness of a crime scene investigation. The mental health evaluator, Dr. Patterson, asked leading questions designed to make me look unstable. How long have you been collecting books? Not collecting, just owning. Do you feel anxious when people want to throw things away? Who doesn't? When did you last have visitors? I work from home, that's not relevant. Do you have trouble making decisions about what to keep? Everyone does sometimes. Every normal answer was met with note-taking and meaningful glances. They photographed my closet, claiming my clothes were compressed and creating structural stress. They measured pathways between furniture, declaring my desk placement a fire egress violation, even though I could easily walk around it. My book collection was deemed combustible materials in excess of residential safety standards. The supervisor, Mr. Zhang, pulled out a tablet showing photos of other apartments. This is what normal living spaces look like. Do you see the difference? The photos were of nearly empty, staged spaces that looked like hotel rooms. When I pointed out that people actually live in their homes, he said, that's classic hoarder logic, unable to recognize abnormal accumulation. Then Rebecca arrived. She walked in carrying a professional folder, apologizing for being late. She introduced herself to the team, mentioning her position with the department. My lawyer immediately objected to her presence, but she produced documentation showing she'd been officially consulted on the case. What followed was a masterclass in manipulation. She painted a picture of me as someone spiraling into mental illness. James has always been withdrawn, but it's gotten worse since college. He broke up with his girlfriend 2 years ago and hasn't dated since. Social isolation is increasing. Look at how he's dressed. He works from home and has stopped maintaining professional appearance. I was wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt. I've tried to help before, but he gets aggressive and paranoid when family expresses concern. Our mother was worried about him before she passed. She asked me to look after him. Our mother died 5 years ago of cancer, and this was a complete lie. The mental health evaluator was taking notes furiously. They huddled in my kitchen, speaking in low voices. I heard Rebecca use the term anosognosia. I looked it up later. It means lacking awareness of one's own mental illness. By claiming I didn't think I had a problem, she was using my denial as evidence of the problem itself. They served me with a formal notice, 30 days to remediate all violations or face condemnation. The requirements were draconian. Reduce personal belongings by 60%. Maintain clear pathways of at least 36 inches throughout. Remove all excess books, papers, and electronics. Submit to weekly inspections for 6 months. Attend mandatory hoarding disorder counseling. Accept support services as deemed necessary. The estimated professional remediation cost was $8,000 to $12,000. Or, the notice helpfully mentioned, I could work with an approved family member or guardian to oversee the process at reduced cost through city assistance programs. My lawyer pulled me aside after they left. She's built a nearly perfect case. Every term she used, every behavior she described, it's exactly what judges look for in these situations. We can fight, but honestly, you're looking at $10,000 in legal fees minimum, and judges almost always defer to social workers, especially family members. That night, Rebecca texted, I know today was hard, but I'm still willing to help. As your temporary guardian, the city would pay for everything. You'd keep your apartment, get professional help, and in 6 months, this all goes away. Otherwise, you're facing eviction, massive costs, and a record that will follow you forever. Please, James, let me help you. I had 30 days to figure out how to save my home from my own sister. Update 3, December 2024, the trap closes. I fought with everything I had. My lawyer filed appeals, challenged procedures, and requested hearings. We submitted photos showing my apartment was lived in but clean. We got statements from neighbors saying they'd never had issues. We documented that I ran a successful business from home, paid rent on time, and maintained normal adult functioning. None of it mattered. Rebecca had anticipated every move. For every piece of evidence we presented, she had a counter. Neighbor statements. Hoarders often hide their condition from others. The shame prevents them from allowing people inside. Successful business. High-functioning hoarders can maintain one area of life while others deteriorate. Photos of clean spaces. Temporary cleaning for documentation is common. The pattern reasserts itself without intervention. She filed new reports weekly. She claimed I'd made concerning statements about self-harm if I lost my apartment, a complete fabrication that triggered an emergency psychiatric evaluation. I passed, but the evaluator noted I seemed highly stressed about housing situation and exhibited some paranoid ideation regarding family members, which became more evidence of mental health issues. My landlord, facing $3,500 daily in fines, issued an eviction notice. The city offered to pause the fines if I accepted intervention. With eviction looming, legal bills mounting, and no viable options, I signed the temporary guardianship papers on December 15th. What happened next was a systematic dismantling of my life. Week 1, Rebecca arrived with a cleaning crew. They threw away 70% of my belongings while she stood with a clipboard, categorizing items. My professional reference books, including expensive design manuals and signed editions from mentors, excess paper creating fire hazard. My project files from 5 years of freelance work, hoarding of outdated materials. My backup equipment, redundant electronics indicating inability to discard. When I tried to save my external hard drives containing client work, she said, "This attachment to objects is exactly the problem, James. Let it go." Week 2, she implemented her structured living plan. I needed permission to bring anything into the apartment. She installed cameras in common areas to monitor progress and ensure I didn't relapse into hoarding behaviors. She had keys and performed wellness checks at random times. This is my home. I protested during one surprise visit. No, James. This is a space you're being allowed to occupy while you get better. There's a difference. Week 3, she started redecorating. The apartment needs to look healthy for the final inspection. Every change reflected her personal taste: minimalist, cold, impersonal. My comfortable reading chair was replaced with a rigid modern piece. My desk was swapped for a tiny writing table that couldn't hold my equipment. Week 4, she began staying overnight, claiming she needed to observe living patterns for her reports. She took my bedroom, relegating me to the couch. You need to break the attachment to specific spaces, she explained. It's part of recovery. Week 5, I noticed mail arriving in her name. When confronted, she said it was temporary for administrative purposes. She'd officially changed her address to my apartment. Week 6, I discovered she'd been telling neighbors she was taking care of her brother who had a breakdown. Mrs. Chen from next door looked at me with pity. It's so good Rebecca is here for you. Mental health is so important. Week 7, she threw a dinner party. My apartment, now stripped of everything that made it mine, was filled with her colleagues. I heard her giving a tour. It's been challenging, but look at the transformation. James is doing so much better with structure and support. One guest commented, "You're so dedicated, Rebecca. Not many people would put their life on hold to help family." She smiled. Well, someone had to step up. And honestly, I've grown to love this little place. It has such potential. Week 8, the final inspection. The city officials were thrilled. My apartment looked like a furniture showroom. Nothing personal, nothing lived in, nothing mine. They praised the remarkable transformation and Rebecca's dedication to family wellness. Mr. Zhang shook her hand. This is what successful intervention looks like. Your brother is lucky to have you. Rebecca smiled modestly. I just want him to be healthy and stable. After they left, she informed me that while the emergency guardianship was ending, she'd applied for an extension. You're still showing resistance to maintaining improvements. For your own good, we need to continue supervision. And, she added, since I've established residency while acting as your guardian, you can't just kick me out. I have rights as a tenant now. Update 4, January 2025, the final insult. The guardianship extension was approved. The judge praised Rebecca's selfless dedication to family, and noted my continued need for supervision as evidenced by resistance to treatment and unstable attitude toward intervention. Rebecca presented the financial breakdown of the remediation. A $3,000 guardian administration fee, her payment for destroying my life. $4,000 cleaning and organizing services, hired through her approved vendors. $2,000 storage fees for disposed items in case James wants them back. I have to pay to retrieve my own belongings. $2,000 ongoing monitoring services and equipment. $1,000 miscellaneous administrative costs. The full $12,000 in city funds went to her and her associates. I got nothing but an empty apartment I no longer recognized. When I confronted her one last time, she was arranging flowers on what used to be my bookshelf. James, I gave you every opportunity to cooperate. You chose to make this difficult. But look around. The apartment is beautiful, the city is happy, and you're getting the help you need. You stole my home. I saved you from yourself. There's a difference. She turned to face me fully. Do you know what your problem is? You think you're smarter than everyone else. You think the rules don't apply to you. Well, I've been doing this job for 8 years. I know exactly how to help people like you. You've done this before? She smiled. I've helped transition 3 clients through similar programs. It's rewarding work, helping people who can't help themselves. I was evicted from my own apartment the next week. Rebecca claimed I was becoming aggressive and unstable, making the environment unsafe for a female caregiver. The police served me with a no-contact order. I couldn't even fight for my own home anymore. Update 5, March 2025. The truth revealed. I've spent months homeless, couchsurfing with a few friends who still believe me. Most people hear hoarding disorder and guardian and assume I'm the problem. I've applied for dozens of apartments, but with an eviction, a mental health intervention, and a destroyed credit score, no one will rent to me. But I hired a private investigator with my tax refund. What he found confirmed my worst suspicions. Rebecca has done this 4 times. 2019. Margaret Liu, 67, widow living alone in a rent-controlled apartment. Rebecca became her guardian after reports of senior self-neglect. Margaret now lives in a nursing home. Rebecca lived in the apartment for 18 months before moving on. 2020. David Thompson, 34, veteran with PTSD living in a 2-bedroom condo. Guardian appointment after hoarding and mental health crisis. He's now in transitional housing. Rebecca occupied his condo for 2 years. 2021. Sarah Martinez, 29, artist with autism working from home. Guardianship for inability to maintain safe environment due to developmental disability. Sarah now lives with her parents in another state. Rebecca stayed in her apartment for 14 months. 2023. Me. The pattern is always the same. Single people living alone, minimal social connections, work from home or retired, rent-controlled or below-market housing. She studies them, builds a case over months, takes control, and moves in. The investigator found something else. Rebecca doesn't own property. She's never signed a lease in her own name since college. She's been living in other people's homes for 8 years, using her position to make it legal. I've submitted everything to the state licensing board, the FBI, and local media. My lawyer says it's a long shot. Technically, she followed all procedures. Every form was filed correctly, every assessment was documented properly. She knows the system perfectly because she helped design the forms. The ugly truth, my lawyer explained, is that the system assumes good faith. It assumes family members, especially those in social services, are trying to help. There are almost no safeguards against someone who knows how to make exploitation look like care. Final update, July 2025. 1 year later. Rebecca still lives in my former apartment. She's redecorated completely, hosts dinner parties for her department, and tells people she's maintaining the space for her brother until he's ready. The guardianship has been extended twice. Each time, my unstable housing situation, the homelessness she created, is used as evidence I still need supervision. I've connected with 2 of her other victims. Margaret Liu died last year in the nursing home, never recovering from the trauma of losing her home. David Thompson struggles with addiction, saying the loss of his condo after returning from deployment destroyed his faith in the system. Sarah Martinez sent me a message. She made me believe I was broken. It took years of therapy to realize I was fine before she showed up. We formed a support group of sorts, sharing evidence and strategies. We're working with a journalist on an expose, though Rebecca's department connections make people reluctant to go on record. I found a room to rent from someone who doesn't do background checks. I've rebuilt my client base, though it's harder now. I lost all my portfolio work when Rebecca threw away my drives. I still wake up in panic when I hear unexpected knocks, still photograph my living space obsessively to prove it's clean. But I survived. And I need anyone reading this to understand. The system meant to protect vulnerable people can be weaponized by those who understand it. If a family member in social services suddenly shows concern about your living situation, be very, very careful. Document everything. Get a lawyer immediately. Don't sign anything, no matter how much they claim they're helping. Rebecca was right about one thing. I thought I was smarter than everyone else. I thought family meant something. I thought systems had safeguards. I thought surely someone would see through such obvious manipulation. I was wrong about all of it. Your home can be stolen legally. Your life can be destroyed with paperwork. And the person doing it can be praised as a hero while they're living in your bedroom, eating off your dishes, and telling everyone how sad it is that you couldn't be saved. Trust no one. Document everything. And if someone offers to help you, ask yourself, what are they really helping themselves to? Because sometimes the person who should protect you is the one you need protection from. And sometimes, the system designed to save you is the very weapon they'll use to destroy you.